audience matters. You must be wondering why I'm saying this, but we'll soon find out why audience matters. Joining me is Praveen, not just a photographer, award-winning photographer, director for communication. Also, he tells the story through the lens. But let's find out why audience matters. Praveen, why does this audience matters?
Yeah.
Or why is it so important that
Right.
we think through the audience
Yeah.
in everything we do?
See, Ashwin, if you want to be a professional photographer, if you want to do this for a living, if you want to do it as a full-time gig, then audience really matters, because this is who you do it for. Whether you're a fashion photographer, a wedding photographer, corporate event photographer, like photojournalists like me, we all do it for audience because we want to make sure that the audience is invoked. There's some response. If you're a wedding photographer, you want to make sure that the couple is really happy. If they are not happy with the shots, then what's the point in paying you?
Exactly.
Right? And the family should be happy. When they look at the album, they're like, wow, you captured those emotions in such a beautiful way. I think no matter what photography you choose, if you want to do it professionally, you've got to impact your audience. Now, there are some photographers who are private, we call them, like they may do it for the art, for the sake of it. It's a hobby. They're not professional photographers. They're hobbyist photographers. They do it just because they like to take flowers or the skies, or, it's a personal hobby thing. And maybe they put it in a Facebook or a, Instagram page. But they're not professionals. But I think in the realm of professional work, you need to know your audience, number one, and you need to make sure that you impress your audience, no matter who they are. So I think it's almost bringing out the emotion in them. I'm a photojournalist, so I can't speak on wedding or fashion or anything else. But when I put my work out now, I'm a professional in the area of non-profits, right? I work with a lot of, communities. I work with Kids for the Kingdom. Our work basically is to work with children. Now, I know how to take a portrait of a child or a situation or an environment, a house or an orphanage, or to celebrate that child. I'm not the kind of a guy who wants to show sadness and poverty and, these, dirty, like it's just not one of my strengths. I like to show resilience, joy, strength, and that's the kind of, my style, because I know my audience. People are tired of seeing, dark and, there's war and, so many things happening in the world this day. But when they see a child that's joyful, no matter what the situation is, he or she might have just a plate of, small, simple food, but, the child is gleaming, happy. And I think when you watch that, it invokes something in you as an audience.
And it makes you do something.
Yes, that's where my organization comes in, right? Because I work for an organization that needs to cater to an audience where we need to make sure that the audience now, there's a call to action.
Get involved.
Get involved. They get involved with our organization and in turn. So it's a cycle. So I know my field. I know the organization I work for. I know my audience, and my work is all curated in that way. So I think you really need to know and understand your audience well, because at the end of the day, as a professional, I work for you. I work for the audience. That if that's not the case, then we are not professionals. It's just a hobby.
Praveen, what you said is so deep, even as influencers.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, right? Yes, we want to influence, whether you're a theatre artist,
Yes.
or maybe you're a speaker.
Yeah.
Every Sunday you go out and speak.
Yes.
Yes, but then you're there for the audience.
Yeah.
And I remember, you mentioned about Jesus being a powerful storyteller.
Yes.
I mean, he did so much,
Yeah.
not to get influence, but to give that influence to people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, in a way, what you're saying is your photograph or what you're trying to do is actually bringing in a response.
In a response, absolutely.
So that's what every influencer should start thinking.
Yeah.
How do we get good at this?
I think it's a skill.
Yeah.
Again, patience and a lot of work on it. You got to keep building it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I've understood over the last 2 decades of working in this field is simplicity matters.
Simplicity.
Okay. At the
Going
end of
back
the
to the
day,
foundations.
if you go back to the basics, right? It's not about the jazz and all the crazy equipment and the lights not the technical side. You just narrow down to simplicity, right? Like when I try to take a photo, I try to clear out the background. Just like an artist, like a painter.
In other words, clean the clutter.
Clean the clutter, right? And then I want to drive you to what I want you to see. You see?
It's a good point.
So I'm trying to say, okay, if my viewer watches or looks at this photo, what do I want him to see? So I use a lot of symmetry, I use perspective, I use composition, and all these things are psychological. And you have to really build that skill. So you have to understand the basics of photography, and then I direct you. And this is what painters did. like 16th century painters, they would do, it's called chiaroscuro, they would make the place dark in the background. And then they would focus just on the subject. The light is only on the subject. So what happens is your eyes is not wandering to the back, to the table, to the clutter. It just goes straight to the subject. And a lot of stage lighting is done, like the churches and event spaces. You see, they'll just bring the light straight to the subject. It brings attention to the person. So I think simplicity is key. You want to convey a story, because of social media, right? There's so much of pressure on people.
It gets complicated.
Yeah, people want to, be like the next big guy, the next big influencer.
But then what you're saying is be yourself. Be simple.
Yourself, be simple, that, and keep doing that over and over again. And then success automatically comes. You don't have to be the next Peter McKinnon or some next Ansel Adams, right? I mean, it takes time.
Yeah.
It does take time. You need a lot of time and patience for it. But I think, if as long as you can keep your photos simple and clean and bring that focus to the subject, I think your audience will automatically react. Whether you're into wedding or any angle of photography, I think that's key.
I think the one takeaway which I'm getting is you're also saying, don't make the audience tell you what it is, but you tell the audience.
You drive them.
You drive them. So in a way, if we have a story to tell, and if you're a good storyteller, you make people get involved in the character. So that's what you're trying.
That's
to
what
tell.
I'm trying to say.
So be simple. And for that, the foundation is be simple.
Has to be. And then last thing is adding a text to it. Because words matter. There's a saying in English that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a caption adds to that 1,000 words, right? A caption or a text adds more context to that image. Now, I told you about that photo in my previous episode about the shot in Zimbabwe. But, when I added that context about that sporting event, it was in a village in somewhere in Zimbabwe, and it added more impact over you as an audience than if I just shown the photo, right? So whenever I send it to a jury or to my organization, if you look at our work on social media and on our websites, we add context, we add something, we add a subject, we add a small passage at the bottom that gives you a little bit more, so you can I want you to understand better. There might be a question in your mind. I want to answer that. And that's where captions are very, very important.
In fact, Praveen, the next episode is called The Power of Captions.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that point, because in the next episode, we're going to dive deep into, yes, I have a good story. Yes, I've taken a good photograph. But then just that slight caption, that one word you add in that caption or in that magazine, that word adds a complete new dimension, which drives just that. There's a power in that caption. And we're going to talk about that in the next episode. And Praveen, I'm looking forward to talking with you. For those who have missed the early episodes, what I'm requesting the audience is go back to the early episodes and see each one. Each one has got huge takeaways, big takeaways, but it's simple. Don't miss the next episodes. The next episode is The Power of Captions. And I'm talking with Praveen, and there's a lot to take away. You are an influencer and you are more than a conqueror.